I, all right. All right. So, Mark, why don't you say hi just first off, and then I'll get us rolling here.
Hey, I'm Mark Michaelson. I'm currently a grad student at Cross Theological Seminary working on my master's degree in theology.
Yeah, and you brew coffee on the side. And so the
I,
first thing I
I
did is reach for
do.
my coffee.
Yeah, I do. I am a coffee consultant. So if you have roasting questions, I typically am the guy that a lot of people go to for that. It's really a blessing to be able to work in both industries, because the industry of coffee is such a conversational starter. And so it's
Hmm.
so much easier to just speak across. Like I've been to China and Korea and Central South America and being in situations by myself where I couldn't speak the language, but we could share a cup of coffee, and that was the language of what was going on. So
Hmm.
it was just a really cool thing. There was a guy in Seoul, Korea when I was at Onyx Coffee Lab, and he had Onyx coffee label like bags labeled, and I asked him to take down the thing through Google Translate, and I showed him my signature that was on the side of the bag, and he was just shocked. Like out of all the people in the world, the roaster at Onyx would be coming in just to his shop in Seoul and talking to him about coffee.
Wow.
It's been,
And you
it's
got
been,
you had to like Google Translate. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty wild. That's pretty cool though. Um, okay, so I'll actually get us started. I'm Jason Stone. I just do this for fun. I've been interviewing some Logos users, and it's a lot of fun for me to just learn how people use their application. And I have learned something new every time that I've got to sit down with folks, and so this is a lot of fun. Um, Today's guest is, like Mark said, Mark Michaelson. And Mark, I was about to ask which seminary, but it looks like Cross, just to
Yeah,
confirm.
yeah, Cross Theological Seminary. In fact, the booklet that just Logos just sent out for academics, actually, we have a blurb in there about our seminary. So it was pretty
Oh, yeah?
cool.
Do you
Yeah, it
have it
was pretty
handy?
cool. I do not, unfortunately,
Oh, well,
but
there's an article in there by someone you know if you browse through the articles. So check it
oh,
out.
nice. And is that
Yeah.
just for the academic
Hmm.
students? Okay, perfect. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
But okay, so I know that seminary is your context. I know that you also do a lot of devotional reading yourself.
Yeah.
We're constantly checking in with one another. And then there's you're a family man, you are a church layman, I would say. You're not a leader in the church, right? Are you still
Uh,
preaching
so
at all
I
or no?
so I am a ministry resident in the church that I'm going to, because Cross Church is a little different, or Cross Seminary, because it's lived inside of a church. And so the order of the service is really interesting, that we get to actually do 12 hours of resident ministry a week with our mentor of one of them. And it's a
Oh, that's
pretty big
cool.
church, of around about 10,700 in attendance Sunday. So it's a pretty large, substantial SBC church, Southern Baptist Convention.
Hmm.
And so I work with my resident minister, which has been doing this for 31 years, and his name is Tim, and he's the adult discipleship pastor for the campuses there. And there's three different campuses that we have.
Cool. That's great. Thanks for that context.
Yeah,
So you're already sharing your screen. We already wrestled with
yeah.
this before we got started. And so I think you said a few things that you wanted to get into today. I'm just
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
throw it out there and then you say if there's something else. So I think that you mentioned collections is something that you wanted to dig into.
Oh,
There are
yeah.
passage guide and then maybe even AI search a bit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And if we have time, Bible study builder would be great as well.
Yeah, Bible Study Builder, like I said before we even got on here, it's just so intuitive and comes up with such great questioning, to where, at times when you're coming up with a lesson plan, and you're like, okay, this is great, but what does it mean? Like, how are the
Hmm.
people going to answer? And usually I'm the king of asking questions that are yes or no answers. And so getting out
That's
of that
cool.
comfort zone of that really does help a lot.
Hmm.
But collections, yeah, collections is something that I think maybe is underutilized within Logos. Like most of the students I know at my school, all 44 got Logos when they started, and most of them still don't know how to run the operations and utilize some of these things that I'll be showing. The collections is an interesting thing. So I have, let's see, there's quite a bit of, so if you could see, I have quite a bit of collections that I've started. And it just starts basically by, say, you're going to be doing a class on baptism. And so what you would do is you'd come to start with the books matching. Now, this is not AI, so you have to be very specific with the thing. And so you could say subject, colon, baptism, and now it's going to give you every book within your library that deals with baptism that's the subject matter of that. And so once you do that, you could say, okay, these are so many books that I will want to use in the thing of, baptism, and it breaks down from infant baptisms into silence of the New Testament. Just a lot of really good types of things. Or if you do the same thing about salvation, this will give you, if you're doing a study on salvation, like what does that entail? That brings up different books, 45 resulting, because you want to be very specific. Say subject is a little too broad. Say you want to go title instead. They gave us 4 less results, but it gave us, at least in the title, the hope there's the word salvation. So that works out, because what I'll do is I'll go to my passage guide here and say I'm looking up, let's do Matthew 11. Matthew 11 is a great, let's start at the verse 1 here. And something you'll notice about my, the way that I do this, it's a little bit differently. So when you go to your passage guide, you can go to add, and then there's different things you can do. You can add biblical theologies, bookstore, Catholic topical index, your collections.
It looks
and
like
so
the pop-up, the overlay there is not working, only because you're sharing the application and not your screen as a whole. So if anyone's watching the replay, then they'll see, if you click add, there'll be a drop down there.
Okay, yeah. And so what I'm doing now is I'm going through, in fact, I'm going to open up my Bible to the same thing so that I can start to see what I'm actually doing. And so this is a very familiar passage, Matthew 11. And say you wanted to know everything that you have on Michael Horton, you have a collection. He has 0 things that he talks about in Matthew 11, which is fine. But again, it gives you different articles. And so this one has Bruce Ware, which is one of my favorite systematic theologians. And you go to him and he's got a couple things on Matthew 11. And that way you can search out all your favorite authors. So if you like MacArthur, or say within this case, you like Ware, you would just put author and then Ware, his last name. And there's 8 different things attributed to him on the Trinity and just different things. And so again, I find that if you really want to get into what different things are talked about, like you see here, I got the Babylonian Talmud. It's got if there's anything on Matthew 11, which I would doubt. And so like Barnhouse on Romans. So this is just the specific Romans commentary for that. And then I have different ones, whether it's the new use of the Old Testament, or Packer may say something about that in his illustrated manners and customs. He says something about Matthew 11. And so again, I just think utilizing the actual collections is something that is really easy to do, and something you could add to your passage list without any problems, so that they can actually do a study on like certain, in fact, I'm doing a paper on total depravity. And so my author, I want to base it on Calvin and what he did in during the Reformation. But so if I wanted to do that, what I usually would do is, just put in Calvin here, which will get us to John Calvin. And these are all the books in which I can look at. And so as you're going through here again, I even have study Bibles as one of my collections, which I think could be utilized really well.
So would that be type study Bible? Is that what you did there?
Yes. Let me make sure. But yeah, the type, and then let's go over here to make sure that I did that, because this will show up with the, yeah. Well,
Oh, I
actually, no,
see.
I just did study Bible within
Okay.
parentheses, but you could do type, which is another way in order to do it. And it, like with Calvin, since I was doing the paper on him with the different thing, I went to depravity, because that was the oh, I did it as a layout actually. And so,
Mhm.
but anyway, if you want to do Calvin here or study Bibles, it gives you the opportunity to look through them systematically rather than just going through them. And like these are all of my books on the views, the 5 views on apologetics, inerrancy, doctrine, Sabbath, all these different ones. It helps to know that you have some views, because when you finally get down, again, I have an over amount of collections I go over, just to be sure that I always hit the people that I'm looking for. And
Yeah.
so, like I said, you go for a while, but then it gets into your prioritization, which really is one of those things that, like, your collections, in my estimation, they're a lot like commentaries. I can just open up Christianity Today magazine and get results for Matthew 11. And so you can do it by different types of commentaries, whether you do it from present so you say you want to do one commentary, commentaries for collections, and you just wanted to do the one that they talk about, um, one volume. And so you would put this, and I can just send you all these different types of um, code for you to do that. But this gives you all of your one volume commentaries throughout the entirety of your as you're
Yeah.
studying,
Well,
which is
to zoom out real quick with what even the search parameters that you put in there. If you go to the three dots for me real quick.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, the three dots in the collections pane,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah,
then go down to help about this feature. So anyone who's watching this that's like, wait, what? How do you types or subject or topic or author or whatever? So right now, well, you just went to help about this feature, and now you landed in the help center for collections.
mm,
And so if you start to scroll down a little bit, you can see how to create a new collection. And then if you pause right there a moment, you see and not, you see examples, type dictionary, and not title, lexicon. So you can start to get some ideas of how to create these searches. Do you see subject archaeology, for example? Do you
yeah.
see, yeah, so there's some examples in here that the Help Center has around creating collections. And there's all sorts of parameters that folks can use. Exactly, the library filter fields is where I was going to go next. You just hovered over it. So if you
Oh, right
click
here,
on,
yeah.
go down a little bit more, library filter fields. So these are all the examples of, scroll down a little bit on the right. You should see, there you go, alternate titles, author, collect. So you see all the ways that you could organize your collection or search your collection or create new collections there. So
Yeah,
um,
that's a really important tool. I didn't know. I knew with the Help Center that they came up with some really cool things, but I didn't know this for the collections. That would have helped when I first started, because coming up with
yeah,
collections is kind of a longer thing.
yeah. You can do it
There,
by like your tags. You could do it by topics. You
yeah,
could do it so many different things, and the Help Center will help you. Help Center will help you. It'll just
yeah.
help you see the different ways that you could create that. So
And if you are working in seminary and you want more up to date, this is one that I'd like to share. Is
mhm,
type Bible commentary and pub date greater than 2000. So I have
yeah,
1228 different ones in that. So when I go back to the passage guide, if I want to go to these 2000 to present, it's going to give me 556 results in 43 articles.
That's pretty awesome.
And so this one is really good, like I said, for seminary, because you're actually dealing with a lot of everybody that deals with the Dead Sea Scrolls and everything. Not to say the commentaries before that can't be used, they can and they should be, but just if you're doing a scholarly paper, they want to make sure that the people actually have the up-to-date information on the actual Dead Sea Scrolls and the different papyrus and codexes they found throughout the centuries for that. And so usually 2000 and above will give you a really good range.
Solid. Thanks, Mark. So the other thing I want to make sure we have time for, we did cover a little AI search in a previous interview. I was wondering if you'd jump into Bible study builder, or in how you use it.
Okay. Yeah. So
Right.
I was coming up with some questioning in Romans chapter 6. And it was dealing with dead to sin, alive to God. And I kept getting to the point where I would come up with questions, but it was always the yes or no answer question, which doesn't really help as far as getting the questions out there. So dead to sin, alive to God. And so it gives you these different questions. What does baptize symbolize about our relationships in Christ? If you look at chapter 6, 2 through 4, let's go to that. And what we can do is get it to where we're at Matthew 6, or not Matthew, Romans. Sorry about that. And so you have that. And so say if I have something open in my parallel view. So the parallel text is the New Testament. You can utilize that by going here. I know it's something we haven't talked about, but it's something you can do with Hebrew and Greek, or just a parallel Bible. But if you don't want it to be on, you could just shut it off, and it gives you more space to actually look at your text. But yeah, like 6:2, for what reason would a person not want to live in sin any longer? And then when you look at by no means how can we who have died to sin still live in it? And so the Bible study browser, or the Bible study builder here, is just so important to coming up with different things. And they give you different books based on the different books that you have in your library, which you have access to. It'll show you just different ones. But I really have found the ones that have been at the top when it first comes out, the Bible study questions, have been on point and really, really useful for teaching and getting out of that yes or no answer question type of thing.
Awesome. So can you add a couple of questions just to show, like, building out a study?
And so say this is something that maybe in those ones before you didn't like, so you can actually generate more questions, and it's going to get pretty specific, like how does Paul's teaching in Romans 6 about grace and sin challenge or affirm your understanding of salvation? I mean, that alone, that question alone, just the technology behind that and not having to come up with it yourself, that would be one that I would definitely put in. And then you could put your answer in just so that you know it, but then you have this thing. And so then you go here, oh, I like this question too. And so you could create notes. And so that way you can do a Bible study with people and actually come up with questions that are meaningful and are ones that will really make your people think about what you're trying to teach them how to do.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah,
cool.
it's a great little type thing that I find to be really helpful in especially coming up with papers and questions for papers, and just as a starting off point, not necessarily just copying and pasting and going about your day, but a lot more of just like getting into the word in a deeper sense so that you can ask questions that really pierce the soul and give you better answers than just yes or no.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark. Anything else you want to share before we hop off?
The new Factbook has been really cool. I know that the guy yesterday shared a little bit about it. Something I noticed with Factbook that I have not seen a lot of people utilize is when
What's
you
that?
actually link set it to your Bible. And I know you know how to do this because you have done this before. But if you link set your things, it's actually
Mm,
going to, as you're going through, it's going to move through so that both of these are connected together so that you can have all your different things, your fact book on your different types of qualities of what you're looking for. And all of this is dependent on your library. So depending on what you have, you'll get more or less of what you need. But I find it's a good starting off point, especially when you're trying to come up with different things for those different books. I find again that's really helpful for seminary level types of things.
hmm And if you don't have like a powerhouse computer, like it seems like you do have, Mark, you can close if you link up your fact book, you can close
Yeah.
those panels on the right down below, and then it won't load everything. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can go to
Yeah.
just biblical, just library,
But
and then
you have that little down arrow at the moment. You could actually collapse that. That way that your logos isn't doing all that work every single time you change the verse. That's all.
oh yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
you can
So
go open it up. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say you just can go to the right and it says either collapse all or expand all. And
Right.
so if you
I
collapse
would
all,
collapse them all so that you're not doing all that work, and then you just dig in as you need to. But anyways, yeah, it's good
yeah,
stuff.
no, it's really good just to remember to collapse them so your computer. And I only have, and we talked about this when I got this computer. It's a 8 gig M1 MacBook Air, and it runs quicker than my PC with 16 gigs of RAM and just different things. And so having the right type of resource as far as your computer really helps you
Hmm.
become more efficient in what you're doing. And because no one can stand the little circle that just keeps repeatedly going and going and going.
Right. But it seems like the platform's speeding up every release. It seems like it's getting a little bit better. Well, cool, man. Thanks for your time. I will be sharing this. I really hope it's helpful. I always enjoy catching up with you anyways.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
we'll do
Thank you
this.
so much. And you have a great rest of your day.
You too, man. All
All
right.
right.
Catch you
See
later.
you.